Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this press conference prior to the final of the 2021 CONCACAF Gold Cup. We have coach from Team USA, Gregg Berhalter, this morning. Para todos los medios que quieren escuchar esta conferencia de prensa en español, ofrecemos traducción simultánea. Pueden escoger la opción en el botón de interpretación. So now we'll open the floor for questions. We'll start with Stephen Goff.
Hey, Greg. Obviously you've spoken at great length over the past couple of years about this rivalry, and it seemed as if the volume was really turned up 2 months ago in Nations League. Where do you think things stand now between the two teams heading into this big game, especially considering the backdrop and setting?
It is what it is. Nothing's changed. These are fantastic games. It's always a great game when we meet Mexico, and to do it in finals makes it even more special. We're preparing the guys for a very difficult game, a very combative game. The only thing that I think is worth mentioning is we want it to be a physical game. We want it to be a tough, contested game, same way as Mexico, right? They want the same thing, but we also want it to be fair. And, that's the referee's role in this game, is to manage the game in a fair way. I've seen numerous times when the players from Mexico are grabbing players' necks and the facial areas, and that has no place in the game. We can't have that in the game. We want our guys to battle. We want both teams to battle. We want it to be physical, but that has no place in the game. When I saw the semifinal, I didn't think the referee did a good job of managing that at all. And they need to get ahead of that. There can't be any hands to the neck or to the face.
Ryan Strauss.
Hey, Greg. How often during the tournament have you leaned toward prioritizing getting a look at a certain player or certain partnerships, or testing a certain player in a certain environment in a way that you may not have necessarily have done if your only focus was on winning that specific game that day, like your life depended on winning that game? And I'm curious, if it has been something you've been doing, does that philosophy change for the final?
I look at it a little bit different, Brian. I look at it as just the next man up mentality. And the group has been fantastic. The group has given us that confidence, given us, their trust, because it's about a guy coming on the field and doing the best for the team. And when he can't do it anymore, another guy comes in and does the same thing. Our substitutes have played a fantastic role in this tournament, but so have the starters. And, we've been focused on getting better game to game, understanding the load that this tournament has, the physical load that it has on the players, mixing up, rotating. We made 7 changes after the first game. From the quarterfinal, semifinal, we didn't make any changes, and the substitutes played a huge factor in both of the games. So for us, it's just, the overall goal, the overarching goal has always been to win the Gold Cup. We've been consistent in saying that. And the way we've chosen to do it is by, pulling from the whole roster. And we think that's the way to do it. And, it will probably continue throughout the final, or will continue in the final as well.
Paul Tenorio.
Thanks so much. Greg, as you mentioned, I know the goal has always been to win, to get to the final, to win the Gold Cup. But considering the relative youth of this roster, the relative inexperience, do you feel like they've exceeded expectations in getting to this point, and their ability to manage some games where things aren't going well, but they still find a way to win and advance? Thank you.
I think, the only thing that has exceeded our expectations has been the mentality of the group. You never know exactly how the group is going to come together when you name the roster. And, I've been absolutely amazed at the cohesiveness of this group, and, how players are responding to challenges, and how the team is so focused on our goals. A good example would be, the Canada game. There could be, we were so determined that we wanted to win the group and we wanted to achieve that milestone objective, that the guys grinded and gave every single thing they had in that game. We had some guys that were sick in the game and weren't up to physical standards, but just grinded throughout the whole game. The quarterfinals and semifinals, how the impact of substitutes and how everyone's behind each other. So from that standpoint, I've been really impressed with the mentality of the group and the cohesiveness of this team.
Daniel Nora.
Hi, Greg. I want to ask you, which one is the biggest reason that makes you believe that you can beat Mexico tomorrow in the final?
Well, I think first of all, it's a game of 11v11, right? And, we know anytime we step on the field, we have a chance to win the game. And second thing is, we're preparing. The whole group is preparing physically, mentally, tactically, for how we can beat them. We know they're a good opponent. We know they're a difficult opponent, but we'll be ready to play. We know that the finals, one thing that we've learned from the course of playing the finals is it comes down to very small differences. Many times finals come down to set pieces or a small thing in the game that makes a big difference. And we have to be prepared in every single play.
Sergio Venegas.
Thank you very much, Coach. This is Sergio Venegas, live from Mexico City for Deportes.com. A year ago, I asked you in the Soldier Field what was difference and increased the rivalry. I don't know if you remember that. And now you just defeat Mexico in the CONCACAF Nations League, and this could be the rematch, and you see the game against Canada. So, the weakest part for Mexico is the defense, so you're going to attack because your players are so fast, and I wish you the best luck for tomorrow.
Thank you. We're not necessarily targeting their defense and saying that's the weakest part of their team. We know they have a strong team. In terms of the Nations League win, we don't even remember that anymore. It's only about the game tomorrow. It's going to be a new game, new context, some new players, and our focus is on winning the game. We know it's going to be a very difficult game. We know Mexico has a good team, but we're prepared.
Jeffrey Carlisle.
Thank you. Hey, Greg. Christian Roldan has showed really well off of the bench, in the last couple games. At this stage, do you see him still as more of a sub? I mean, do you think that's where you can help the team the most, or, has he done enough to be in consideration for a starting spot?
I could gather any of those scenarios. Our job is to look at the impact players are making and choose a lineup that we think is going to win the game. And he's certainly a guy that we can envision putting in to start the game. We've been really happy with his role. He's a glue type of guy, a guy that brings the team together. And then when he's on the field, he's relentless. He performs at a high level and it really gave the team a boost in these last couple of games.
Charles Boehm.
Hey, Greg, I know you just mentioned that you've forgotten the Nations League final, but I hope you don't mind me asking just a little bit about your approach in that and whether we'll see anything like that tomorrow. Do you expect to shift to sort of take into account Mexico's approach to things as you set out your team and pick your shape and your roles tomorrow?
Well, I think it's no different than what the Mexican coach is doing, what Tata is going to do. He's going to think about scenarios of when we can hurt them and when they can hurt us, and think of how to adapt when we're on to what he's doing, and that's the game. I got a ton of respect for Tata Martino. I think he's a great coach. Great experience. I think if I had half the career he's had as a coach, I'd be happy with it. He's a really successful coach and has coached all over the world in some top clubs and countries. So, for us, it's about, how can we hurt them and how can we, adapt to what they're doing, and when they change, how do we adapt with it?
Owen Evans.
Morning, Greg. This is the third time since taking over the national team that you're facing Mexico in a final. What are the main things that you learned as a coach from those past two experiences?
The games will be very difficult. The games will be very tense. There's small things that separate the winner. Look at both of the games; they're both 1-goal games in terms of 1-goal difference between the winner and the loser, and one went to overtime. So, the other was decided in the second half. We know it's going to be a tight game. Things like set pieces will come into play in this game. Who can commit to executing on both sides of the ball and set pieces, who can execute their game plan, and who can respond. I think that's the crucial thing that we've learned, is that it's not always going to go to our plan, right? There's going to be bumps in the road, and it's about how you respond to these bumps. If you do in the right way, you'll be successful.
Ryan Tomich.
Hey, Greg, as you said, there's a big difference between, the Nations League game and this game, just in terms of personnel and everybody coming in. But looking at that game, you had Kellen and Sebastian and Reggie who were part of that, and they've been a part of this rivalry, and they kind of know what's coming. Obviously a bunch of these guys have played Mexico on the youth level, I'd assume, but how important is it to kind of lean on those guys, especially the ones who've done this recently?
Yeah, I think you add Brad Guzan to that list, you add Sean Johnson to that list, you add Jossie Zardes to that list, Christian Roldan to that list. We have a number of guys that know what this game is about, and by the end of today, everyone on the team will know what this game is about.
Ives Galarcep.
Greg, I want to ask you about the attack. You've had 4 1-0 games. You've created some chances, but it hasn't been consistent creation. What's going to be the key to be able to create enough chances to win this game on Sunday? And just a little separate thing. There's this idea that you guys are playing with house money. We're in Vegas, obviously, so the idea of house money is kind of, people are talking about that. Do you buy that idea? Do you buy the idea that the pressure's on Mexico to win this because of the squad they brought to this tournament, or you don't buy that?
I don't give much credit to that school of thought. I think it's a disservice to our guys. I think it's a disservice to our team. The guys want to win this game, and we're going to do everything we can to win this game. And if we don't win this game, I can guarantee you we're going to be bitterly disappointed. And we've been together now for 4 weeks. And, the guys have grown so close together, and there'd be nothing better than to win this title. And that's what we're, 100% focused on. Regarding offense or lack of offense, the games are always tight. Jamaica hasn't conceded many goals in the tournament. If you saw the Costa Rica game, they gave up 1 chance against Costa Rica, and that was a goal. We knew they were going to be difficult to break down. But nonetheless, we got the win against Qatar. Similar situation. They were, it's a cohesive team. They pride themselves on how they can play defensively. So that was going to be difficult also. And again, we won. For us, it's about winning and advancing. Everything is tight. When you're in tournament format, the games are tight. We weren't expecting to go out and beat Qatar 4-0. That just wasn't a scenario that we played out. And we're prepared for another tight game tomorrow.
Simon Berg.
Hi, Greg. Since the Nations League final, Mexico have added one of the most lethal strikers in the region in Funes Mori. And I'm curious what you've seen out of him, whether he's changed much in what Mexico do. And, game planning for him, I imagine, throws another wrinkle into things.
I'm sorry to laugh. You just made it sound so scary the way you said that. No, listen, I said already he was one of the best players in the tournament. Really like the player, really like what type of striker he is, lethal in the penalty box, as you mentioned, and he's a handful. And for us, it's going to be a challenge. We have young center backs, and, no matter who plays, we have young center backs, and we're going to have to make it difficult for him. Excellent player. History of scoring, typical number 9 type of player. And for us, it's, how do we make it as difficult as possible? And it's going to be a good task, a difficult task, but I can guarantee you our guys will be up for the challenge.
We'll take 2 more questions. Orlando Castellán.
Gracias. Buenas tardes para todos. Buenas tardes, Greg. Orlando Castellán, Servicio Informativo en Deportes. Bien lo mencionabas en una respuesta que decías que mañana el arbitraje no influya mucho en en el transcurrir del partido. Es una de las partes que te tiene más preocupadas de que el arbitraje se cargue un poco hacia el equipo mexicano, y si los dos equipos llegan en las mismas circunstancias presionados por ganar este torneo, más allá que ustedes están en casa y ellos están de visitante, pero el público puede también el día de mañana puede estar muy dividido en este estadio de Las Vegas. Gracias.
It's a good question, and I bet I bet Tata would have a very similar answer. We want this game to be a hard-fought game. We want it to be an entertaining game for the fans, but we also want it to be a fair game. And my only concern was, again, when there are these melees, when there are these confrontations between the two teams, that players keep their hands off of each other. I don't like seeing hands on our players' necks, and we're not going to stand for that. And the referee needs to get control of that. And, again, I could imagine Tata would have the same answer to that question. Regarding the crowd, for us, it's, anytime you get to play in a stadium like the stadium in Las Vegas, and by the way, I think CONCACAF has done a great job with the fans and the stadiums in this tournament. It's been really exciting. The Dallas game was an amazing crowd. Austin was an amazing crowd. I've seen Mexico playing in front of great crowds, and this Las Vegas is going to be, just the pinnacle of the tournament in the final. And the crowd's going to be amazing, and we'll deal with whatever crowd there is. If it's pro-Mexican, we'll deal with that. And if it's pro-American, that will be a great boost for us.
Last question with Douglas McIntyre.
Thank you. Hi, Greg. Forgive me if you've been asked this already in this press conference, but as a player with the national team, you were part of a generation that began to have some sustained success against Mexico. You started that game in Korea 2002 and a bunch of other ones as well. And in the 2010s, let's say, things started to swing back and Mexico started to dominate the series again. What to you as the coach of the team to have your team be the one that starts to flip things back? You've already beaten Mexico in a final summer. What needs you to sort of turn the narrative around again?
I think that's the ebb and flow of the player pool and the groups that you're working with. All those games are very difficult games. To me, they come down to mentality. That's what it comes down to. Just understanding, again, I've said this a couple times in the press conference, but understanding what type of game it's going to be. If our guys can understand that and have the proper mentality, we have an opportunity to win the game. And if we don't, it's going to be a difficult game. So for us, we want to get the win. We know it would be a great topping to this month, and that's what we're focused on.
Coach, thank you so much. With this, we conclude the press conference with the head coach from Team USA. We invite all MIA members to connect again at 4 p.m. for the mix-in with players. Thank you, Coach.
Thank you.